Hey, what's up YouTube? Down the Smartphone Guy coming back at you with another video, and tonight I'm excited to share with you my first impressions of a brand new device, the Alcatel Idol 5S. So this is just going to be a first impressions video. I've only had the phone for about 10 hours, and I just want to share with you my thoughts on the device so far. So this is a phone that you can pick up on Amazon.com at the moment for $200. It is an Amazon exclusive. That is the ad-supported version, or you can pick up the non-ad supported version for $280. Now, in this case, typically I would say go ahead and get rid of the ads and pay the extra. But in this case, it's an extra 80 bucks. And so I have a hard time saying that I would recommend getting that version simply because $80 seems like a lot just to get rid of the ads. So let me just show you real quick what those ads look like. So I'll go ahead and hit the power button over here on the left. And there it is. So I'm getting an ad for texture, and there's my regular notification. So that's really all you're going to see. And then if you hit the fingerprint sensor, you'll jump right back into the screen that you were last on. So the one frustrating thing about that is if you do get the ad-supported version, you can't just use the fingerprint sensor to jump right into your home screen. It's going to require that you go to the lock screen first, and then hit it again, and it'll bring you back to your home screen. So you have to go to the lock screen in this case if you get the ad-supported version, which of course I have here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the build quality and some of the specs that this thing has. So first of all, on the left-hand side, we have our SIM tray. That SIM tray is also going to be used for your micro SD card. It is 32 gigs of onboard storage on the device, but then you have a SIM tray that supports up to 512 gigabytes. So tons of expansion opportunity there. So we have a power button, really tiny power button there. Metal build all around the outside, so nice aluminum metal. We have our volume rocker on the left-hand side, and that's pretty much it on there. We have our front-firing speaker. We have a microphone up top, and then on the bottom we have another front-firing speaker, another microphone, our headphone jack, say thank you for that, and then we have a Type-C charger here, so that's an upgrade from last year's micro USB. Now, in most cases, this is actually kind of a little bit of a downgrade from last year's device, because last year's device had a larger screen. I believe it was 5.7 inch, and it was also a 2K display. It might have only been 5.5 inch. I believe it actually was 5.5 inch, but it was a 2K display, whereas this year we have a 1080p display and it's only 5.2 inches. So that would be similar to like the Alcatel Idol 4, which is their more budget-friendly version. Outside of that, this is a very similar build to the Alcatel Idol 4. One thing you'll notice though is that there are no rear firing speakers. So last year's version of the phone had both front firing and rear firing speakers, which we don't have this year. Another thing that you'll notice also is the fact that we don't get that huge bundle that it came with last year. So last year, when you got the device, if you got the 4S, you got a case with it, you got a tempered glass screen protector with it, you got some headphones. There were some nice JVC headphones. You also got the VR headset as well. This year, it's pared way down. Basically, you just get the wall adapter, which is a 2-amp wall adapter, and then you also get your Type-C cable, and that's it. And you also get your books and a SIM removal tool. So very, very basic. They really pared down what they're offering this year. I really actually liked what they had to offer last year, so a little bit disappointing in my opinion, but it is what it is. So you can see that they do have the same front-firing speakers. Now this time they're not JVC tuned, but we do have dual 3.6 watt speakers. In terms of the cameras, we have a 12 megapixel camera on the back with autofocus and dual flash there, dual flash. And then on the front, we have an 8 megapixel camera. Whoops, I'm hitting buttons there. So on the front, we have an 8 megapixel camera right here, and then we do have a flash on the front as well. So in terms of the screen, I would say so far, I know it's only a 1080p, but last year the Alcatel Idol 4 only had a 1080p screen. The 4S had that 2K display, but I think this 1080p display on a 5.2 inch phone is just fine. Unless you're like a pixel hunter and you're really looking real close, you're probably not going to find pixels, and I think the 1080p display works out well for this. Now, the one thing I will complain about in terms of build quality for me is just all of the wasted space. I mean, here's where our screen ends, and then here's our speaker, and there is a huge chin there. And then kind of the same thing up here. It seems like there's a lot of wasted space, so it's kind of taller than the phone needs to be maybe. But other than that, I do really like the build quality. We have a glass back. So, if you like glass back, it's premium. But I kind of prefer metal back. That's just my personal preference. But if you like the glass back, this obviously has that. And other than that, I think the build quality is quite good. So let's go ahead and jump into performance. So this thing is rocking the Snapdragon 625 processor, which has been, in past phones that I've used that processor, it's been a fantastic processor. And I think the same is going to be true here. We have 3 gigs of RAM. It's that 625 is clocked at 2 gigahertz. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Geekbench 4 score. So you can see there it's got a pretty low single core score, so that's 875, but then the multi-core score is right up there with some of the, I'll give you an example here. Let me grab my phone here. Didn't have it ready, but let's go ahead and jump into, this is the LG G6, so just as a quick comparison, so this is obviously a flagship device, and going in here, all right, there it is. All right, so you can see the comparison here. So this is the G6 with the Snapdragon 821 processor. So this actually has a higher multi-core score here. That one was run a while ago, but obviously the single core score here is much higher. So, but overall, I would say so far the Snapdragon 625 processor on this phone is no different from any other phone. It's a very snappy processor. The difference here being that this device has a much smaller battery than other phones I've had with the Snapdragon 625. So that may be a little bit of a concern, even though the Snapdragon 625 is a very efficient processor. I'm kind of thinking that this device will suffer from a little lower battery life than some of those other devices that have the 625. And the reason for that is because this only has a 2620 milliamp hour battery. So definitely kind of a smaller battery compared to some of the other devices that are running the 625 processor. But other than that, performance-wise, I think you're going to be just fine playing pretty much any mid-range game. You're going to probably not have any issues. So far, I've run into 0 performance issues. It's been very snappy. And one of the reasons for that is the software here is very, very stock. There are a lot of Amazon added apps here. So that would be maybe your bloatware. It's just all the Amazon apps. But other than that, outside of that, you're pretty much running stock Android. It did come with a few social media apps like Instagram. I believe it also came with Facebook and Facebook Messenger. Those were not apps that I added. It did come with Next Radio, but other than that, pretty much it is a stock device. Now, it did also come with these VR apps, which is interesting because it didn't come with a VR headset like last year's device did. So kind of an interesting option there. So let's go ahead and next we're going to talk about some software tweaks that they offer in Android 7.1.1. So you can see here it's running Android 7.1.1, which is basically the newest Android operating system we have available at the moment. And some of the things that they tweak that I really like, so we're going to jump into gestures. So that would be one option. So we have a glove mode option, we have a turn over to mute, and we have the 3-finger screenshot, which works very well. And then, where's it at? Let me find the other one, and it's in security. There it is. So security. So within our fingerprint sensor, here it is, we have some options. So right now it's going to be used to go back to the home screen. So I have that turned on at the moment. We have it to take a photo. So that's of course when you're in your camera app. We have the show notification panel, which is basically just a swipe down on the fingerprint sensor in order to bring down your notification panel, which is really nice. Same thing as the Honor 8 had. And then we can also use it to switch between photos. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate just a couple of those. So let's go into an app like Instagram, and then I'm just going to hit the fingerprint sensor while I'm there, and it's going to take us back home. All right, so notice I didn't touch the home button, of course. And then the other one would be when you go into your camera, which we'll show in just a second, it can be used for a shutter. So I'll hold it there. All right, so taking a quick selfie there, and I had the flash on apparently. So that is the other option. And then I can use it to pull down my notification shade without touching the screen. So there you go. So I can go up and down with it. So that's a nice option as well. So I do like that they offer those fingerprint gestures like some other devices that I've reviewed in the past. So let's go ahead and talk now about the camera. So that's a 12 megapixel camera on the back, 8 megapixel camera up front. There it is. And we're going to switch it back to the other camera. And within that, you can see that, let's go ahead and just take a quick snap photo. So shutter speed seems to be pretty good so far. And so that's good. We have a slow-mo. So these are just the options that we have. So we have slow-mo. We have video. Of course, that's just going to be video. Now, this shoots in 1080p. That is the highest resolution it'll shoot in. Last year, the Idol 4S and the Idol 4 both had very good video quality, I thought anyways. So pretty good to autofocus. You can see there. So pretty quick autofocus there. We have, of course, the photos. Now this does have electronic image stabilization. There is no OIS here, so there's no optical image stabilization, but that would be pretty much unheard of at this price range. So some other shooting options, we have panoramic. We have manual mode, so I don't remember that being an option last year, but it might have been. We have micro video. That's kind of interesting. So it gives you some options to do some micro videos that you can edit together in order to create a full show. So we'll get out of that. And that's going to be a long press. It'll start recording, and then you let it go, and then you do it again to get a full show. We have Cinemagraph, which that's not one that I've really looked at, but short looping clips, which allow you to add moving elements to your still photographs. So kind of interesting there. We have a 360 photo, which is going to work like a panoramic, but then of course this one you're going to go all around. We have an instant collage, which is kind of a cool option. So it gives you a number of options for how you want your collage to look, or the layout for that collage. And then we have a light trace, which is kind of cool. So swipe over to get that. So you can see what light trace will do. So you're capturing light. So like at night, you see a bunch of cars going by, and it'll actually have that light trace like you see here. Same thing with like a waterfall or something like that. So different shooting options. So it's nice that they offer these different shooting options, and they have it set up kind of like an iPhone, as you can see. But in terms of photographs, I would say so far, I've been quite impressed. Same thing was true with the Idol 4 and the 4S from last year. Picture quality seems quite good. That was just a quick, all right. So this is just, I'm going to show these pictures at the end of the video as well. But so far, I'd say picture quality has been quite impressive. So detail, this is the front firing 8 megapixel camera. These are all relatively low light pictures. But yeah, so far picture quality has been pretty decent. And I would say it's on par with last year's cameras, which is to say they're pretty darn good, I thought. So with that being said, last thing I want to talk about is the speaker quality. So I'm going to jump in here to Amazon Music, and I don't remember what I had playing last, but we'll go ahead and jump into, let's see what I got purchased here. See if there's anything. All right, so let's do this. Oh, wrong one here.
Raindrops rolling off my brim. Street lights got the pavement glistening. Touchdown, I fall into your arms. Right where I belong, your everlasting arms. And where would I be without?
Okay, so I will do some comparisons later on with some other phones, but one thing I will say is that in terms of volume, so I have the HTC U11 here. The U11 to me definitely has the louder of the two speakers, but there is no doubt that the clarity is definitely better. When I was listening to the two compared, the HTC U11 definitely had the louder, but this was definitely the more, I would say, comfortable listening experience, because it gets relatively loud, but then also isn't as tinny as the U11. The U11 at its highest volumes just is kind of a tinny. There's definitely a lack of bass, whereas this one has a little bit more bass and thump to it. So Personally, I like, even though this is a quieter speaker, even though it's not as loud as U11, I definitely preferred the sound signature coming out of the Idol 5S. So that is just a quick look at and my first impressions of the Idol 5S. The last thing I want to talk about is the battery. So you can see I'm now at 25%, so I'll go ahead and pull this up and give you some battery statistics. So at the moment, let's see here. Where's it at? Battery. Here it is. All right, so 25%. It says 4 hours left. Let's take a look at the screen on time. So 3 hours and 4 minutes. So, basically you can say right now that we're looking at pretty much 4 hours of screen on time. Now, it's a little bit unfair because on the first day you're downloading apps and things like that. And it was at 100% when I started it. So looking at about 4 hours of screen on time. But we'll take a look more at what kind of battery life we're going to get out of this device. But that seems like it might be kind of standard for it. So anyways, we'll take a look more at that as we get into our full review. So anyways, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, go and leave them down in the comment section, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.